Hey guys! So today, based on actually a viewer request from our last video, we're going to talk about what we think of ESFJs. Yay!
ESFJs!
Yeah, so generally I like ESFJs, which perhaps might be surprising since supposedly they are my conflicting relation in Socionics, which is like the worst one apparently. But I don't know. I know several ESFJs. I have some ESFJ friends, and I like them. They're very like warm and sweet and charming, but with their tertiary NE, they're also quite goofy and playful. And I think the two of us usually can have like a really good time together and just be fun and silly.
So I know like a lot of ESFJs. Like my mom is ESFJ. Her mom is ESFJ. I love your mom. She is so nice. Oh my gosh, ESFJs are so nice. One of my best friends is like ESFJ. Okay, so the dominant FE, I see that as like very effective. Sometimes it's a little too effective for my FI sensitivity, but it's effective almost like in a TE way. Like results driven emotional affects, right? Like I think once, this was my friend in high school, I was really upset. And she immediately was like, let's go get chocolate right now. And I don't know, said a bunch of things that really effectively cheered me up.
With ESFJs and INTJs, we have totally different functions. So we have like no overlap in how we think. So a lot of the times we have like a very different outlook like on the world. But I found that it's like totally possible to respect each other's differences. And yeah, I feel like I have an ESFJ friend. We ourselves and like how we approach life and stuff is like so different, but we've known each other for a long enough time that we just like know each other and we just totally respect each other's different ways of doing things. And yeah, and it works out totally fine and we can have a very nice relationship actually.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm mean to everyone now. That's really interesting. Maybe it's because you're like an NT and SF. That's just so different. But like an NF and an SF, I don't know. I feel like I relate to their SI and E, but in a reverse order. So sometimes their SI is too stiff in adhering to like social dogma or like, especially since I'm FI too, so sometimes you're like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, or these things are just traditionally important. And I'm like, no. This is more of a tension between me and my mom, though. I don't think my ESFJ friend really does that. Okay, so sometimes I think it's like too much FE too soon. Sometimes like when I'm sharing something maybe like happy or sad that happens to me, I feel like I want like understanding first before emotional affect, and a lot of the times it seems like they just give emotional affect first. But then I talk to like more people about it, and apparently it's just that they just trust your emotional reaction to your circumstances to be accurate.
Yeah, I feel like there could be those sort of misunderstandings with the FE differences. So I feel like this is why it can make a good pairing for me for friendships, but it might be harder for like romantic relationships or maybe familial relationships where you have to like maybe make decisions together. So I think that might be where it gets into the conflicting relationships. But I think if you're just friends and you don't really care about what one another does, you don't impose your own thoughts or behaviors onto the other person, then it actually can be a very eye-opening relationship. Like I think I enjoy talking to my ESFJ friend specifically because it gets me out of my own head so much, because I'm like talking about my problems and she's like interpreting it through an entirely different set of cognitive functions, and I'm like, oh, like I see how you came to that conclusion, and it's like, wow, I realize how trapped I am in my own like mind in a sense. It might not be the most helpful one though, because ultimately I don't have those cognitive functions. And ultimately I can't maybe do like her advice, or I can't see things the way she does, but it is kind of like eye-opening and uplifting and freeing in a sense.
I think, it's like you talked about romantic relationships. I think like ESFJs in some sense and ISFJs, they're kind of like how you always imagine dating to be. Like a lot of romance as portrayed in movies and TV shows is kind of very like sentimental and emotionally caring. So I think of that as FE and SI. Like I have dated SFJs and I think, man, do they make you like feel that you are totally cared for. I do think that like high FE and high FI are too touchy together in terms of romantic relationship. Like anything more serious than a friendship is a little bit like just so different. Like I feel like I need to do backward somersault to like cognitively understand the other person. Probably vice versa too. They probably think I'm like super aloof and stuff. Like why don't I check up on them enough times? I've been called like selfish by ESFJs like so many times, by my friend, by my mom. Oh yeah, I hope your mom doesn't think I'm selfish. I just come over and do my videos. I buy her some wine. They're really warm and quick to respond, I guess. Energetic because of the tertiary in E. I think the other thing is I think they're like so earnest. They take their relationships seriously.
I feel like, okay, around ESFJs, I feel like I do have to try to play up FE-like behavior around them. Or just like...
I like how you call it FE-like behavior.
Yeah.
Like a chameleon blending into the social form.
Or just like let my true FI intentions show around them. I think it's easy too because they just do it so obviously, like that's their external mode of being. So whenever they like show their FE emotions and do like these effective things to show that they care about you, I just really try to make sure that they know that I'm like reciprocating because I know that that's like my weak point and like FE is like my blind spot. So it's really hard for me to like communicate emotions to others, I think. So I have to be kind of aware of that.
Oh, a big possible conflict between us. High FI users constantly bleeding out emotions without intentionally like I'm not intentionally managing the affect of my emotions, but they're constantly like darting out. I think that could be like a nightmare for the ESFJ. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's it. No, I was gonna say like ENFJ probably with their NI, they kind of generally know who I am and what I'm about. And if I do something weird once, they're like, okay, that's just her. But maybe like the SI of ESFJ is like, what did you do? Like that? What did you really do that one thing? Yeah, my mom is constantly saying like, oh, why did you do that weird thing? So another thing about ESFJs, I feel like this is also like a low TI thing, and it manifests more in arguments. In my personal humble opinion, I think the most difficult person for me to like argue with would be an ESFJ. When they're in the heat of stress, they make sure that their tone is consistent, but they don't make sure that their actual words and vocabulary is consistent. And I think that's like a low TI thing. Yeah, if they want to convey some emotion when they're like stressed out, they will know how to structure their tone exactly correctly for their purpose, but then sometimes their words are going all over the place. This is actually exactly the opposite of me. Like in an argument, I'm not noticing my tone at all, so I might have like a really aggressive tone, which you guys have found in my like ISTP video. Like my tone might be like just not what I intend, but I make sure that my words are accurate. Like I won't say like you're an idiot or something. But in my personal opinion, like ESFJs have been known to like maintain a very civil tone throughout an argument, but their words are flying all over the place and it can hurt me a lot.
Yeah, actually I see that maybe too. Yeah, with their repressed TI, when it kind of bubbles up, it sometimes bubbles up in arguments. Like they see something as like very logically consistent, but their understanding of it is actually kind of rudimentary maybe, and it doesn't count for different situations or different circumstances. They just like hold this principle very firmly, and it's very hard for me as like a higher TE user to be like, well, okay, that's not always the logical principle. Like in these situations it might be like this, in these situations it might be like that. So I feel like, yeah, maybe in fights, it's just really hard to kind of come to any sort of like resolution.
Back to the words thing, it's like when they're having like a fight, so they're really stressed out, so they're having a fight, and what inferior TI sometimes does is like deny facts or something, or like use words like, oh, you always do this, when it's just maybe like twice. I think I had a fight with my mom where it didn't even start off as a fight. Sometimes I'm just saying things that are like factually true in my TE way, and then I don't manage my tone as I said, and then suddenly now we're having a fight.
Okay, yeah, so according to the Socionics, like conflicting relations, Socionics says it's like the worst relationship and it's like the hardest to understand one another. But actually I feel like sometimes it's easier for me to communicate with ESFJs more so than like other types. For example, I guess last time we talked about the ESTP, And I feel like it's way easier for me to have a steady conversation with an ESFJ, maybe because we're both judgers and it's kind of at a more steady pace that I can keep up with, but the SE Dom is just like moves so quickly and my NI moves so slowly that huge gap is just like really hard to bridge.
Okay, I think my Socionics relationship is the mirage or illusionary. I'm not really sure what that, like, it is supposed to be kind of initial attraction followed by kind of like mockery of each other and slow disintegration, something like that. Here it says the introvert partner usually tries to free themselves from the attempts of the extroverted partner to impose their opinions. Oh my god, I mean, of course it just exacerbated by the familial relationship, and my mom is constantly trying to like state her opinions as like fact and facts that I should follow. It's just like SI traditions. I'm like, no, but my FI does not agree with any of this. It's totally irrelevant to me. And then you're so selfish, and then the argument starts. The whole initial attraction thing, like, I can see why an INFP might be attracted to the ESFJ's method of conveying like romantic sentiments. Because we have that shared like SI, right? I do see like a lot of value in the FE and SI sentimentality and just efforts to make me feel good. But then just the argument, like whenever things become negative, it's just so negative. It's like, it's too much, you know? Guys, I know like I was kind of saying more negative things about ESTPs and now more negative things about ESFJs, but look, my mom's the ESFJ. Maybe there's some like Freudian Oedipal thing coming out, like who knows? Generally, I get along really well with my ESFJ friend, although we do have those like argument misunderstandings, but I do like her a lot as a person. I think she's good at all sorts of things that I'm not good at all, so I can kind of appreciate that as well. The other thing is that I can feel quite self-conscious around them because I know that they're so good at being caring and making sure everyone knows that they're caring, but I feel like deep down I actually do care a lot about people, but it's very often externally non-evident. Maybe that's why it hurts like even more when FE Doms say that I'm selfish, because it's like actually I do care a lot, but maybe it is selfish in that I don't make a point for the other person to know, so in that sense it's like, why does it even matter if I care if I'm not making it evident? Like what yeah, I think my mom has said something like this, like kind of like, what can I do with your story? Like, what can I do with your inner emotions? Like, what is the point? Right. Annihilate me in the comments, ESFJs.
Interestingly, yeah, for the conflicting type, it does say that we can hurt each other where it causes maximum pain. Yeah, that might be true. Even with like my ESFJ friends in childhood, we didn't fight a lot. Like generally we got along well, but probably sometimes when we said things to one another, it can get you in that spot where it really hurts. Okay guys, let us know what you think of ESFJs and what your Socionics relationship is with them, and do you agree with it or not so much?
If there's any ESFJs in the audience, like what do you think of our types or any other types? We would like to know.
Thanks so much for watching. You guys can subscribe for more videos, and if you enjoy our content, please consider pledging your support on Patreon.
See you next time!